Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your patience as we get this started. Welcome to future-proofing your HVAC business, adapting to market trends. We got a really good presentation going for you right now. Travis Allen will be joining us soon, and we got Vince here, we got Ephraim, and we're going to be doing a deep dive into business building techniques. A couple of housekeeping items out of the way. If you'd like to ask a question, we will be taking those towards the end of the presentation. You can find the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, or toss your question in chat. I'll be watching both of those, and we'll get them directed to Vince or any one of these panelists here. Otherwise, if you want to watch this again or share the presentation, this will be on HREI's YouTube page as well. Without further ado, though, I'm going to pass her over to Vince, and we're going to keep our fingers crossed that Travis can join us soon. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Yeah, very ironic that we're talking about market trends and technology, and we get bit by the technology bug. So Travis is trying to log in, and we'll see how that goes. I'll try my best to sub in for him as best I can. But I guess let me start. We're going to be talking a little bit about market trends in the industry, and we're joined by Ephraim Spiegelman, the VP of Sales and Marketing from Vista Services. So Ephraim, why don't you kind of just kick us off by giving us an introduction of who you are and tell us a little bit about Vista, and from there I can introduce everybody a little bit to Eclipse.
Yep, sounds great. Thanks, Vinny. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for investing the time. On behalf of Matt, HREI, Vinny, and Travis. Hopefully the next little while, the next 45 minutes or so will be enlightening. Maybe there will even be some magic in a bottle here. But the whole idea is to really get the conversation going and see where it takes us. So, like Vinny said, my name is Ephraim Spiegelman. I head up sales and marketing for a company called Vista Services. We are in the financial services game. Essentially, we are on rent-to-own programs. A key piece of our value proposition. There's a whole bunch of pieces to the value prop here at Vista. For me and for us, it's really the people that make the difference. And ultimately, the folks at Vista care about what we do. We care about sustainability. We care about the climate, what's happening within the environment, globally, locally within our own markets. And maybe we've got some small piece here that we can maybe potentially help and affect a little bit of change to the positive. We essentially help contractors fund deals, whether it's for a typical furnace, HVAC system, maybe it's a water heater, maybe it's a water softener. We happen to be getting ourselves into EV charging, potentially solar, really anything that's connected to energy management, connected to the home. And through relationships, which is ultimately the name of the game, but through relationships and some of the things that we've been able to build over the course of the past little while, we got introduced or reintroduced to Vinny and Travis Allen at Eclipse, where we're trying to make a bit of a difference in what it is that we're about to do in the marketplace. So Vinny, I'll hand it back to you. Maybe that's Travis that just joined us as well.
Yeah, we'll see. Travis, is that you on the call here?
I am here now, yes. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can. You look like a giant great telephone, but that's okay. So we just had Ephraim give us a bit of an introduction to himself and what Vista does. And why don't you tell us a little bit about you? And
Sure.
We've already made the joke that we're talking about technology, and technology kicks us in the butt right off the get-go here. So tell us a little bit about you and Eclipse there, Travis.
Okay, great. Sorry, apologies in advance for no camera here, everybody, but it's great to be on the call with you all. So just very quickly here. So I was born in 1978. I have an MBA from the Ivy School of Business. I'm an avid investor in private equity as well as capital markets. Our family-owned business, as some of you might know, is called Able Pest Control, which turns 100 years old this year. I have a lot of experience in in family-owned companies as well as private equity-owned businesses, where my key area involvement has been CEO. I started my professional career when I was 20 years old, where I bought the business I was working at, and then grew that company to 40 locations over a 15-year time period and sold to a New York-based private equity firm in 2014. I've been the CEO of an IoT company that had focus on burst pipes in commercial and residential asset classes. That was ultimately an investment that I got into in 2018, which I then took public in 2022. I'm now the CEO of Eclipse Home Services in partnership with Tribe Capital. So Eclipse exists today to consolidate the commercial and residential HVAC and plumbing space. We're focused on building a great company with a culture and legacy first mindset to ensure fit and alignment with everybody that Eclipse either partners with or acquires outright. I'm extremely excited about the opportunity Eclipse has in front of itself, as I believe the offering factually provides owners with flexibility, a safe and trusting process, real value, and immense opportunity. So today, while Ephraim gives us a lot to think about on certain specifics, I intend to share my business experience in the way that I think about creating shareholder value specifically with what I see as key decision-making considerations. So I'm looking forward to today's chat, and I hope you all get a lot of value out of this. And as always, we thank you very much for your time and your interest today.
Awesome. Thanks, Travis. And I'm Vince Enright. I'm the COO here at Eclipse, and I'm going to be quote unquote moderating these two guys. So Travis and I work together here at Eclipse and known each other for a long time. I've got to know Ephraim over the last several months and very excited about working a little bit closer with him. So we will just jump right into it, gents, and I guess I'll put a question out there. Ephraim, you can take a stab at it first. So how can home service businesses effectively integrate smart technologies, and are there any specific examples of successful implementations from your perspective?
Yeah, it's a good question, Vinny. And you know, as we think about this and think about the best way to approach it, you know, it's you have three people in a room and four opinions kind of thing. Everyone will have their own opinion, and you know, the right way, the wrong way. Maybe there's a middle road that you can take towards getting there. But you know, ultimately, the way I try to think about it, the way our company tries to think about it, and you know, just applying a little bit of common sense, which you know, fortunately or unfortunately, the way you look at it, it's common sense is sometimes not so common. But you know, when you apply a little bit of common, when you apply a little bit of common sense, like we are really looking for ways to simply just simplify and potentially enhance the process, the integration process. And you know, when I take a look at it, and when I take a look at our business and the folks that you know we get the privilege of partnering with every day, we're not in the business of telling people how to do things or how to run their business. We are simply trusted advisors, or you know, outside experts potentially that are coming in, sharing our knowledge from the different markets that we happen to be part of, whether you know it's Ottawa, Toronto, potentially Northern Ontario, Sudbury, everywhere in between, Windsor, whatever the case may be, applying best practice to what it is that we do on a day-to-day basis. But I think ultimately, if we're going to take anything out of it, again, it is really about simplifying the process and not overburdening anyone. So trying not to overburden people, process, and systems. Keeping it simple is one of our mantras here. It's, you know, human beings by nature, you know, we tend to like to overcomplicate things, or at least people in general like to overcomplicate to some degree. And I'm not saying we're perfect. We're not. We're in the operations business. You know, you can plan until you're blue in the face. There's always going to be a curveball, no matter what it is. But we try to keep things simple. You know, maybe one of the examples, and I'll hand it back after this. You know, one of the examples I could think about is, you know, something as simple as if someone has given us the privilege of renting them a furnace over the course of a termed agreement, there's got to be a way for us to service them better. So it's not simply I have a problem with my furnace, I'm going to call Vista or the associated contractor, or Eclipse for that matter. That's part of it. But ultimately, I think we can help, and I think we can help make things easier. And that could potentially be by integrating as a reminder system. So whether it's potentially through an app, or whether it's through a smart thermostat, or you know, whether it's good old-fashioned regular mail to say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Homeowner or occupant, it may be time to think about changing your filter, or we've noticed that you know your furnace has been, we're not here yet, but we're there yet. We've noticed that your furnace has been running for an extended period of time, when really, you know, it shouldn't be running for all this time, and maybe there's efficiencies that we can bring into play. Same thing with a hot water tank, as far as reminders that, you know, we don't think about it, but in a traditional tank, they should be flushed once a year to make sure that they're, you know, working at full efficiency. I know I don't do it. Probably 99.8% of folks that have a hot water tank don't do it, but it's something that we could potentially help with and come up with a program that, you know, makes sense moving forward.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Good run through, Ephraim.
Travis, any perspective on that? Anything you want to add?
Yeah, for sure. So I think as we're thinking about smart tech and integrations in the context of, you know, small business in the space we're in, I think sometimes it can be intimidating, challenging, state of readiness in the company. So what I would say is that, tech moves very, very fast, and staying relevant is very important. It's times like this, it's sometimes valuable to companies to look inward and really say, is it time? Can we do this? Are we ready to do it? Should we consider partnering with another group that are more sophisticated in the area or have more experience, et cetera? From my experience, gaps in companies never get smaller, left unattended to. And when we're thinking about tech and that type of thing, it goes without saying it's the way of the future, and, getting there is important. So when I think about this, I think about value creation specifically, and execution are always really what I have at the forefront of my mind when I'm thinking about things like this. So timing, alignment with shareholder goals, what type of sales and margin you're going to retrieve from it. And, ultimately, is it relevant? Does it move the needle for you? Is it part of the core competency, the strategic direction of the business, the company's state of readiness? What type of investment is required to go into that? Returns, need to be expected. Is there financing that's involved to kind of mobilize this and have it properly set up in the business? And then ultimately, the way that I believe is, or the way that I feel about this type of thing is, alignment with these areas is very, very key, not only to the implementation, but to gaining the conviction and the excitement from the organization as it becomes part of the business on a go-forward basis. So, the widgets and all these things that, as I said in my entry point about Ephraim giving us lots of good things to think about, my element here is really thinking about that decision, when is right the time, is it with the right group, and that type of thing, so that once you make that decision, you can stick with it and, carry on with that as now part of your business.
Vinny, if I can just jump in here for a second, Travis, what you said really resonated with me, and maybe just to bring things to life. So Travis mentioned it, but he and I have known each other for quite a few years. Lucky enough that he introduced me to Vince over the last few months, and we're developing a relationship too. But I hadn't seen Travis over the course of COVID and the pandemic. We were able to reconnect afterwards. I stuck my hand out to shake his hand. He threw my hand away, and he just gave me a big bear hug. And for me, what that tells me, and what that tells us is, we can talk about technology, we can talk about all these things which are important. They're important elements in making sure that our business, our sector moves forward. But we can't lose sight of the human element, and the fact that we like working with people who are just nice and we're in this together. And just because we happen to have a disagreement, that doesn't mean that I'm disagreeing, or Travis is disagreeing with me, or Vince, or whatever the case may be. It just means we're passionate about what it is that we do. A little bit of respectful banter goes a long way, and I guess that's the point. By us having some respectful banter, we're trying to change the game a little bit, not forgetting about the foundational elements that got us all here in the first place.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a ton of effort to be nice, to be respectful to people, right? You can be super competitive and want to achieve great things and still go about it the right way. That's a great perspective. Okay,
yeah. Thanks, Ephraim. Big bear hugs for you, Ephraim. Big bear hugs for you always.
I'll take him. Yeah, I'll take him.
Travis is a big hugger. He's a big hugger.
Big hugger.
All right, so why don't we, Ephraim, why don't you share some kind of trends or your perspective on what are some of these trends in our industry right now? And then I guess equally as important as to what's happening in the industry is, how do these business owners go about staying ahead of the curve so they can get themselves in a position where they're not just super reactionary to what's happening?
Yeah, great question. So, ultimately, we are all in business to hopefully make a few dollars. None of us is a charity, and everyone deserves the right to try to earn an honest dollar. I think that's at its core. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. The way we look at it is, we're pretty good at what we do. The folks that we partner with are pretty good at what they do as well. Really, the magic happens when we meet somewhere in the middle, and that's really the spirit of a partnership. So ultimately, behind Vista, behind Eclipse, behind potentially some of the other partnerships that we'll be talking about collectively over the course of the next little while, that's really where, to me, where the magic potentially hits the road and the rubber hits the road. The hot topic today is connected home. No matter where you turn, no matter who you speak with, conversation seems to be, well, how am I connected? Whether it's a smart thermostat, whether my furnace is sending some information back, water softener, maybe I've got an EV charger at home as well. What are we actually doing to take connected home to the next level? So in my experience, people have been talking about connected home for at least half a decade, probably more. But again, in my experience, it's very few that have actually been able to do it properly. Everyone thinks they know what people want, but until you actually get on the marketplace, ask questions, work with the people that are on the street, the feet on the street, as they say, and the homeowners say, what's going to make your life a little bit easier? Potentially, run surveys, run campaigns, never lose sight of that human element. Instead of just assuming within the four walls of an office, what people want, based on, of course, as a business, we've got metrics, we've got information that's available at our fingertips, but ultimately it's the conversations that our groups would have with, the women and men who are out on the road doing the work in people's homes that are telling us, here's what's working, here's what's not, and here's where the gap is. The other big shift we're seeing in the marketplace, and this should probably come as no surprise, specifically when we talk about water heating, is the shift from a traditional hot water tank to tankless. So, as we all get smarter about what tankless actually means, I actually think, and our team believes, there was a bit of an education flop getting tankless out. So people assume you put a tankless in and you get instant hot water. The idea is, and we probably all know this, but it's not instant, it's simply continuous. So, you want to take a 10-minute shower, you want to take an hour shower, you're still going to have hot water, but it doesn't happen right away. It might take a few seconds, maybe potentially a little bit longer. But one of the things that we particularly spend a lot of time on, whether it's smart or connected home, shifting to tankless, potentially heat pumps as well. That's been a hot topic over the course of the past little while, especially the rebating program that was in place. It really brought things to the surface, is spending time educating people. So whether it's educating our partners, our suppliers, our end users, anyone in between, it's really making sure that people come into a partnership, whether you are entering into a rental agreement, whether you're entering into a contracting agreement, whether you're entering into a channel partnership, that people come into the partnership with eyes wide open. And we're not going to be perfect, we're human beings, but again, to me and to us, our vision here is human element, scalable and sustainable, and just meeting somewhere in the middle versus telling people what to do. Hopefully that helps, Vince.
Yeah, that's very good, Ephraim. Yeah, you guys can hear me. Okay, good. Yeah, so Ephraim, great insights. I don't actually have a lot to offer here, other than the fact that I believe in the way that I function is staying ahead of the curve in a way that propels the business forward into a better strategic position is absolutely something I think about a lot. What we want to avoid is chasing the market versus being one that drives it at all costs. So Ephraim mentioned the choosing your devices, listen to the customer, understand whatever those pieces of the market you want to get into. But really, what is it we're chasing here, right? Is it, when I look at things like this, is there an opportunity to create a more sticky experience with the customer? Can you, thinking more bigger picture about what it is you're going to focus on that really drives the business in the direction you want. But other than that, Ephraim covered it extremely well. I was hoping to say a bit more there, but Ephraim did too good a job. So over to you.
Sorry, Travis. Travis stole some of your thunder. You have to pay me back.
No good. All good, Ephraim. All good. You can take it. It's all good, man. It was a great answer, and I think you hit on a lot of the points of the business consideration and all those things. So that was thank you for that.
Great. So this kind of expands a little bit on that topic. So when we think about new service offerings and these businesses out there looking at which new service offerings they should consider through the lens of their customer anyway, what criteria should they consider to ensure they've got a successful level of diversification inside their business? Because I think that's an important thing, specifically if we're looking at businesses who may at some point be looking to sell or exit. Having a diverse offering is key. So Ephraim, do you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, I like what thanks, Vince. I like what Travis said about not being a one size fits all. I happen to be that kid with a bit of a bigger head, and you go to the store and you buy a hat and it says one size fits all until you try to put that hat on and it actually doesn't fit. So what Travis said before, and Vince, the reality is that it's not a one size fits all, and we don't need to recreate the wheel every single time. It is about educating, and it's about potentially what works in one market versus another, and it's about listening, bringing those interactions into place, and making sure that we apply them appropriately and in a timely manner. You know, the other thing over the course of my experience is, you know, I've gotten a lot of there, here's, and people have pat me on the back. And, you know, we're not in the business of just, you know, Vince, Travis, and I are talkers. We like to talk. You know, it's part of what we do in the sales and marketing game. It's just it's part of what comes along. But the reality is that, you know, there's a lot of talking done up front, just as far as education is concerned, as far as just letting folks know, kind of info sessions or lunch and learns or whatever the case may be, bringing the product experts in. So, you know, as a channel partnership here, the idea is we've got relationships. Obviously, Travis and Vinny have relationships as well. How can we add more value to the table? And you know, our business and our company have been around for about 25 years. You heard from Travis and Vinny that they've been in the game for a long time as well. I really do believe in my heart of hearts that there is some value here. And you know, we're hearing current market trends, some of what we've learned. You know, whether it was building or acquiring or selling businesses in the past, how that applies to today's day and age. Sometimes when you get some feedback from someone who has been there and done that, whether it's related to HVAC or not, you know, it kind of helps you lay out a bit more of a roadmap to say, this is potentially what worked for someone, this is what didn't. And, you know, maybe instead of me or us having to recreate the wheel here or trailblazing, which we tend to on a daily basis anyway, even though our industry is mature to some degree, there's something to be said about learning off of others who have been there and done that and applying some of those best practices to the table. And I think ultimately that's really what we're trying to do. So, you know, maybe I'll just end it on, you know, with it's interesting again with the heat pump program and with the rebating program, everyone got excited. There's a rebating program in place. This is what we have to focus on. And that's what we're going to focus on and, you know, kind of forget about everything else. The truth is, yeah, there's an opportunity for us to focus on rebating programs. This one happened to be specific to heat pumps, but I don't think we can forget about everything else that makes our industry and our businesses successful. Yes, that's the people, but that's also some of the other equipment that we could potentially bring to the table to educate folks before they actually sign on the dotted line.
Yeah, that's very good, Ephraim. I think the way what I would think about this is you touched on that rebate program, and they come and go for sure. I look at that as, you know, these market trends almost like the shiny penny, and I look at both the scary side of the shiny penny and the exciting side, and I really believe both should be considered. You know, managing, I personally would never, and Ephraim, you touched on this just a second ago at the end of your comment as it relates to not forgetting about the other elements of your business. And that's kind of really where my comments are going to be here, is that I would never manage my business for the short-term interest of shareholders, because ultimately, in my experience, that has come very much at the long-term expense of creating real value. So, you know, when choosing a directional trend, we need to be really sure that it's completely connected to the long-term goals of the company. I know some of us on the call here have smaller businesses or bigger businesses, and I can tell you for a fact that Vince and I are working on an opportunity right now where a certain company has focused significantly on the rebate programs that have been available in Ontario. And that will actually turn out to be a bit of a detriment to their business, because they were focusing on quick revenue, cash, or whatever it was they were focusing on, but ignoring other parts of their company that ultimately are a significant part of the value. When we think about value, it's about sustainable value in a forward-looking way, not historically what happened in the last 3 years, although it tells us a bit of the story. From a value perspective, we're looking for sustainability and consistency. So I would it's very much a shiny penny, especially when there's a lot of dollars attached to it and there's a fuse on the program. But we just have to make sure that it's not at the expense of really what we're trying to build.
Great point.
Oh, that's great, guys. That's a real good kind of perspective back and forth. So I guess another one here, when we think about customer experience, and again, interesting that we're talking about technology with some of the challenges we had early in this call, but how can businesses enhance their customer experience through technology in our industry? And I think that's a very interesting one, because technology isn't just technology, right? It isn't just, hey, let's just do anything and everything we can do. It really needs to be applied through the lens of how is this going to positively impact both our business and our bottom line, and the interaction and experience our customers have with us. So Ephraim, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, at the risk of sounding a bit like a broken record, and by all means, I'd be happy to continue the conversation with anyone, anytime, and anywhere. Quite passionate about it, but you know, I think that the key differentiator again is the human element, as we call it. So you know, we can talk about technology and we can talk about integration, and that is important. Don't get me wrong, it is important and it's key. And you've got to make sure that no matter what business you're in, no matter what market you're in, you know, the say-do ratio is pretty close to 100%, meaning, you know, you tell someone you're going to do something, you better do it, because quite quickly, someone will take a look at potentially who your competition is in the marketplace locally. There's always competition. You know, maybe all it takes is one little mistake for you to open up the door to someone else. So, you know, one of our taglines here is local service is better service. I'm a firm believer in that. I know that Vince and Travis are. Our entire business here is built around local service is better service. So, you know, instead of having someone parachute in from some local big market, the fact that, you know, we've got local feet on the street, the fact that we are listening to folks that, you know, in a particular area, whether it's, you know, maybe you happen to live in a hard water area and we need to educate people on the benefits of a water softener in a dwelling, or maybe we need to talk about heat pumps or traditional furnace or air conditioning or whatever the case may be. But ultimately, it comes down to connecting with people, and that connection and that loyalty. You got to start somewhere, so you got to break in, and you got to do what you say you're going to do for whatever, you know, package you agreed to do it for. And you know, sometimes you're going to win, and sometimes you're going to lose. Most of the time, you know, you find yourself somewhere in the middle. But ultimately, people don't like getting surprised with the pluses after the fact. So we try to be as open and honest as possible. And you know, I come back to the, you know, probably the three pillars as maybe we should call them, which is, you know, human element, sustainability, and making sure that it's scalable. So we don't want any one-hit wonders here, whether it's from a technology perspective, a partnership perspective. The whole thing here is we'd like to look at things holistically and grow this together. The only way we're going to move the needle is if we grow it together. None of us can do it. You know, none of us can do it individually. I happen to coach kids hockey. You know, one of the sayings we've got on the team is we're only as strong as our weakest link. And the kids, you know, it took a while, and that can mean a million different things to a million different people. But it took a while, but it finally clicked with the kids, where they realized that if they stay within themselves and they stay within the system, and we practice what we preach, you know, it may not happen today or tomorrow, but over the course of time, as long as we stay the course, you know, have a nice vision in place, things tend to work out for folks that are willing to put the effort in. Vinny, I know it was all over the place, but hopefully that hit the mark.
No, that was good, Ephraim, man. That was good. I love doing this with you. It's great. So the way that I think about like exploring new service offerings or to meet customer needs, et cetera, I think from a business perspective, I would position this the same way sometimes as I think about the stock market, and that is that the market can stay irrational for a lot longer than humans can stay solvent. It's just the truth of it. You know, being early is still wrong, especially if you're not prepared to ride things out while adoption gains momentum. So in some cases, though, early can actually be your moat. You know, we talked about diversification here in this question, and ultimately, you know, if you're early and you do it right and you're seen as the one to trust to kick things off as a thought starter, a lot of the time that can be your edge. And Ephraim, you know, in our experience together when we met at Eddy Solutions, when we were working together in a variety of ways, you know, you got to witness this from the first time. So just to share that experience with everybody on the call, I mean, Eddy was a startup with basically no name in a very, very in a brand new industry, essentially that was a big time of what was coming for the new market trend. And, you know, we didn't, you know, it was very early. And to set up a technology company for the way that we wanted to do it, it was very expensive in terms of the equity that needed to be invested to make that happen. So we took advantage of that, and we quadrupled down. When I actually got into the business as CEO in early 2019, we quadrupled down on being the first one, but being the one that was the right one that was there, that was going to be able to sustain this and stay solvent while momentum came into place. And that took a couple of years after we got involved. But, you know, Ephraim, you basically experienced that in that business where, we had significant enterprise sales opportunities that we closed, et cetera, with companies that typically would only deal with blue chip companies, like really established, well-known industry experts, et cetera. But we kind of flipped the script on that, and it worked incredibly well for us. So I'm a big fan of diversification and having a proper moat around your business for a variety of different reasons. But making sure that when you get into whatever you're getting into, having to unwind it or restart, it is extremely expensive, and it's very difficult to kind of scramble back to the front of the line. So just make sure that anytime you get into anything, you're going to get focused on that. You have the ability to play the long game and wait that through, and be seen as that person that is essentially the one that put it together, that those companies can trust. So yeah, I don't know if you want to share any of your thoughts on the Eddie experience there, from as you saw it or not, but I just that's all I got for that question, guys.
No, I love what you said there, and it's interesting, as we were essentially trailblazing with Travis and at Eddie and me in my previous experience, and we had good days and we had bad days, and there were times where we had to come together, and Travis and his team thought they were right, and I thought I was right, and my team was right, and ultimately no one was winning. So it simply meant potentially going back to the drawing board and approaching it from a bit of a different perspective and angle, versus simply just being the same old, while we continue to remember what got us there. So what got us there was relationships, credibility, and then we were trying to change the game. We were trying to appropriately change the game. And Travis, I really liked what you said about this is the long game. We are not looking for one-hit wonders here. It's something we do today. We're not going to see results for maybe tomorrow or next week or even next month. We are really in this for the long run here. And we are fortunate enough, all of us are privileged, that we're in a sector that's kind of needed. And to some degree, we're recession proof. People need the services and the offerings and the products that we bring to the table on a day-to-day basis. How are we going to differentiate ourselves with everyone else that's out there? It's an interesting question. The relationships play a factor, from the outside looking in, but also the channel partnerships that you choose to get yourself involved in, the folks that you choose to help support your business, to us are what really help make those key decisions over the course of time.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, right? In this industry, and it's not unique to this industry. I think in a lot of businesses, you'll hear folks when you ask them, okay, well, hey, help me understand how you decided to do this. Why are you still adopting this strategy or that strategy? You'll hear a lot from these business owners. Oh, this is just the way we've done things, right? And so I think as it relates to these emerging trends in any industry, you can't be afraid to change direction if there's new information out there. Right? You can't be, so stubborn as a business or have blinders on where this is what we're doing because it's always worked. If there's new information out there, if the industry has changed, if regulations have changed, whatever it may be, you need to be open to have that conversation inside your business and potentially reevaluate, is the direction we are headed still the right direction? It doesn't mean you must change. It doesn't mean you don't have to change. But I think we've just got to be open as business owners to having that conversation and be okay making a different decision with new information.
Yeah, Vin, we can definitely have another webinar session called The Pivot. I think that is absolutely relevant. And I could, I'm the type of individual to measure 4 times, cut once, and getting through the first, the second, and the third measure is the pivot. And I can say without a shadow of exaggeration that even in our adventure here into Eclipse, into the marketplace, we've done that over the last year. The way we thought it was going to work and how it was going to be consistent and give us ability to win. We realized that there was a bit of headwind there, so we went where the tailwind was, and ultimately you got to be agile and dynamic. People are way too smart, and customers are way too smart, and businesses and companies are way too aggressive and tenacious to kind of stick to your knitting is a great thing, but not at the expense of long-term growth. So yeah, just a bit of additional commentary there, Vince.
Yeah, no, you're right. Okay, so that's kind of the bulk of what we've got from a discussion perspective. Matt, do we have any questions that we can lob at these two gentlemen?
Yeah, we got a couple we can tee up. And in the meantime, if you're listening, if you're watching this, you have a question, please feel free to join the question and answer session. You can pop them in the chat or the Q&A there. But Ephraim, for you, over to you, sir. How do you recommend home service businesses balance the need for innovation with maintaining traditional values that may be important to their customer base?
Such an important question. One of the things that we would chat about, I don't know if there's not a one size fits all answer here. That's the truth. But one of the things that we continue to reiterate, whether it's through info sessions, lunch and learns, just general education is don't forget about what got us here. So that doesn't mean that we don't need to innovate, take a look at new products and service offerings, and potentially reevaluate the way our overall service offering is offered to the general public. But ultimately, don't forget about what got us all here, and that is keeping it simple. And ultimately, we are taking a look at traditional equipment. We are servicing traditional equipment. We're potentially helping to finance traditional equipment. But at the same, out of the other side of my mouth, I'll say innovation is also key. But I like what Travis said before. We're in this. We're playing the long game here. So we may have a whole bunch of ideas that we feel are important. It's also important to prioritize. So just like we would prioritize in our business, Travis and Vince would prioritize in theirs. You are all prioritizing in yours, and ultimately, sales is the name of the game. But I believe in my heart of hearts, and this is the way we approach the market, that if you show up and you don't put people in a corner, say, this is the box, we're going to find a way to fit you in it. There's ultimately, what works and what doesn't. We are the experts, and people are looking to us as the experts in what it is that we do. But ultimately, if you give folks options and an opportunity to think about potentially what their next move is, and not too many options, that confuses people as well. But some options for them to think about where they potentially want to spend their money, or who they want to invest in. I think that's key. And then maybe the final point is sustainability and scalability. So we are all about sustainability. I have relatively young kids. I want to make sure that they're able to breathe in 20 and 30 and 40 years on this earth. It's important to me and to all of us around the horn here. And scalability. It's, if you're going to do something, do it properly. So if you can't do it properly, park it, get to it when you have enough time, people, money, resources, whatever the case may be. But make sure, again, say-do ratio. If you're going to say, or if you're going to go to the market to say, we are now in this business, make sure that you can support it when people come calling asking for help. Hopefully that helps, man.
Fantastic, comprehensive answer. Appreciate it. Travis, over to you. From your perspective as an acquirer of businesses, how important is it for companies to have effectively leveraged technology within their organization?
Yeah, so I think, so if we think about our context and the types of companies, the type of buyer we are, well, this is actually super relevant for this industry because there's consolidation happening and whatnot, but we are essentially relying on technology to run our business on a go-forward basis. So I think technology gives you a bit of a peek under the hood inside the company in terms of where they're at, their state of readiness, and all these types of pieces. But technology is incredibly important. I mean, I think it enhances value. I mean, back to that long game conversation of what you invest in today creates value in the future. I'll give you an example of this. My first company that I sold, I had this thing so well set up, technology, design, all these pieces. And I closed my transaction in like 6 weeks of time. Because it was just so easy for the buyer to be able to analyze the books, to see things more. They had more conviction into the operation they were buying. They paid a premium because of all those things. So I think that the easier you can make it for a purchaser to review your business, respect what you've built, and all of those types of areas of focus, I think it's only going to add value. Further to that, you're going to get benefit from that right out of the gates, whether that's route optimizing your fleet, whether that's CRM, sales, analytics, whatever it is. The way buyers, at least me as a buyer, and I hang around with a lot of buyers, they're looking for that type of impact when they start to look at a company. The minute, the paper invoices come out, or the disconnected workforce, or what have you, it just creates obvious, I wouldn't say skepticism because these things happen, but I would say vulnerability. And then when vulnerability kicks in, you now have to think about deal structure. I won't get into the weeds on all this kind of stuff, but ultimately, technology says a lot. It says a lot to us about what the company's doing, what they focus on, what's important. and all of those types of things. So that's how I would position technology, and you get the benefit of it internally. If you're not using a CRM now, it's going to liberate you in terms of time management and that type of stuff.
Thank you, Travis. Do we want to talk about the CMPX show while we see if any more questions are coming through?
We'd love to talk about the CMPX show.
Well, let me put that up here. Can you see that? All right.
I can. This is
Okay.
exciting. So the CMPX show, yeah, very excited. I'll try not to lose it here. I'm very excited about this. So this is going to kind of be, from an Eclipse perspective anyway, this is going to be our, quote unquote introduction to the market, if you will. We're just very excited about this upcoming show. We have a bunch of things going on around it. So ourselves and Vista are going to be hooking up at the Metro Toronto Convention Center. So it's a South building taking place March 20th to 22nd. We'll be at booth 552. So come and visit us. Ephraim will be there. I'll be there. Travis will be there. We'll have a whole bunch of people there from our organizations. I will put this out there. If you're a Leaf fan or a hockey fan, you may have some added incentive to stop by our booth. There's a Leaf game happening on the Saturday night against the Oilers. Apparently one of the hottest tickets of the season. So we're going to be, we may or may not be doing a bit of a giveaway. So if you're interested, come on by, stop by our booth. So that's March 20th to 22nd. Then on the Thursday, March 21st, we've got two other great events going on. So we've got a succession planning learning forum that'll be happening in room 711 at 20 to 2. And so Travis will be there in person, not just with the phone this time. He'll be there in person with a managing director from our private equity partners down in Texas, Tribe Capital. So they'll be there talking about succession planning and some of the key things you need to be looking at in terms of valuing your business if you're thinking about a sale. And then right after that, around 3:30, again, Vista and Eclipse will be hosting a happy hour in meeting room 704. So come on, pop by again. If you're a Leaf fan, there may or may not be a Leaf legend there for you to talk to, and I can't say who it is. It might be Wendell Clark. I'm not sure. But come on by. So we're just very, very excited about getting to the show and introducing Eclipse and Vista. Ephraim and his team at Vista have been amazing in supporting us, and we're really looking forward to kicking off this partnership. So that is it. That is what's happening at the CMPX show, Matt.
Awesome. And speaking of Vista and Eclipse, here we are.
Oh, so that's what Travis looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should have just kept that screen up the whole time.
Should have animated his mouth as he talked or something like that. Yeah.
I'm still here, guys. I'm still here.
So look, that's definitely, if you want to get in contact, learn more, contact these guys. This video will be up at HRAI's YouTube page as well. And look, if they got their email addresses there. So if you do have questions after this presentation, I'm gonna talk for you and say, please send away, fill the email box. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Matt. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Well,
Thanks,
let's call it there and give some time back in your lunch. And until next time, thank you so much, everyone. Ephraim, Vince, Travis, thank you so much for another great webinar and some really good business building insights.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll talk to you soon. Hopefully, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
All right. And thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you at the next one. Cheers.
Bye-bye.